Hi, this is Vince Pirro, and I'll be analyzing the Explorer Reading Program at Merced College. At Merced College, students in English 81, a basic skills reading course, are required to attend the college's reading lab for 3 hours per week. The reading lab serves approximately 400 English 81 students per semester, who are considered 2 levels below college level. Entitled The Explorer, the computer program and the supplemental material that the lab uses were designed in conjunction with Pearson Learning Solutions. Students engage in computer-assisted instruction that contains modules covering topics such as stated main idea, implied main idea, supporting details, and critical thinking, among others. The Explorer program also contains supplemental readings periodically throughout the semester, which ask students to read, annotate, and answer questions about a passage. The Explorer program is strongly influenced by a behaviorist theoretical perspective. First, the Explorer program lessons and activities are broken into various subskills, such as learning vocabulary, recognizing stated main idea, and analyzing supporting details, which students are expected to master before moving to the next skill level. These subskills move from easiest to most complex. It definitely takes a part-to-whole approach. Behaviorism is also seen to use behavioral objectives in the lab. Each modular lesson on a subskill begins with a list of learning objectives. Students review these objectives before they begin the lesson, and then write them down on a worksheet. For example, in the stated main idea module, it states, in this topic you, the student, will learn to 1. Identify the topic or subject matter of a reading passage, 2. Identify the main idea of a paragraph and the central idea of a longer reading passage, 3. Locate both stated main ideas and central points, 4. Locate the stated main idea sentence within a paragraph, and 5. Locate the central point in a longer passage. Behaviorism is also seen in the program's use of direct instruction, as it directly and explicitly teaches about each subskill. Ideally, the student must also master each subskill before he or she proceeds to the next skill set. The Explore program is also influenced by other theoretical perspectives to a lesser degree. For example, it reflects a constructivist perspective, particularly schema theory, when periodically throughout the program, students receive supplemental non-computerized reading materials. Before they read these supplemental materials, they are asked questions to activate their schema on the topic of the reading. Other theories, such as social cognitive theory, are seen to a lesser degree, as in the program's weak attempts to model various reading strategies. The Explore program attempts to incorporate many best practices, especially in its instruction of comprehension strategies. For example, through its modules, it provides methods such as outlining, note-taking, and annotating, which will aid the student in summarizing his or her reading, a key comprehension strategy according to Almasi and Hart. The program is strategy-focused, providing students with several useful comprehension strategies. I am also impressed by how the various passages included in the reading modules are from textbooks and articles that students are likely to find in their other college classrooms. As Gambrell et al. Argue, the best literacy instruction uses texts from a variety of genres and include informational texts that students would likely find in the real world. The Explore program also uses or includes other best practices throughout its modules. For example, the program places students in appropriate modules based on individual reading levels. And Gambrell et al. Remind us that the best reading instruction provides for differentiated assessment and instruction in accordance with the diverse needs and strengths of our students. While Merced College's Explore program attempts to do several things correctly, it struggles in 3 key areas: context, agency and metacognition, and scaffolding for transfer, as Almasi and Hart describe them in their article. Regarding context, students must feel the class environment is a safe place to experiment and to be wrong. However, in the lab, students feel pressured and stressed out over getting the right answer. There should be explicit instruction from expert readers illustrating the various strategies through think-alouds, modeling, and an explanation of their thinking while reading. However, in the lab, some weak and static models attempt to show reading in action, but mostly students work through multiple choice modules. Regarding agency and metacognition, students should have an influence over the reading event and strategic behaviors. However, in the lab, students do not have agency through choice, and the modules do not guide them in being strategic. Students should also be able to build the text model in their heads. However, in the lab, Little metacognition is encouraged in modules and is weak in supplemental readings. Regarding scaffolding, instruction should scaffold from whole or small class discussion with work in which less individual cognitive effort is needed to individual efforts in which students are more responsible for their reading. However, in the lab, students work individually on modules and rarely work in whole or small group discussion. The Explore program reflects many of the outcomes established by Basic Skills Initiative's CB21 project for a reading course 2 levels below transfer. These outcomes, through the coding of courses at the state level, have become de facto performance standards for students in these courses. For example, the Explore Reading program teaches to the literal and referential comprehension outcomes as described by the CB21 reading rubric for a course 2 levels below transfer. The CB21 standards for comprehension indicate that by the end of the course, the student should 1. Identify the central point, 2. Recognize stated main ideas, 3. Determine implied main ideas, 4. Identify major and minor supporting details, 5. Demonstrate the ability to summarize, map, and outline main ideas and details in readings, and 6. Distinguish among patterns of organization. The learning objectives for the comprehension modules in the Explore align with these standards when they state that students will learn to identify the topic or subject matter of a reading passage, identify the main idea of a paragraph and the central idea of a longer reading passage, and distinguish among patterns of organization, among other outcomes. Other modules also align perfectly with the CB21 outcomes. For instance, CB21 critical thinking outcomes call for the student to be able to distinguish between fact and opinion, identify the author's purpose, whether it's to persuade, inform, or entertain, and recognize the author's tone. The Explore reading program teaches to the critical thinking outcomes as described by the CB21 reading rubric for a course 2 levels below transfer. The learning objectives for the critical thinking module clearly state that students will learn to distinguish between facts and opinions and evaluate and react to an author's argument and supporting evidence. Moreover, the Explore module on purpose and tone states that students will learn to 1. Identify a writer's purpose for writing as either to inform, persuade, or entertain. 2. Recognize tone and slanted language and know that a writer is revealing his or her purpose. And finally, 3. Sense a writer's tone and know that it is his or her attitude towards the subject as revealed by the language used. The designers of the Explore program should be commended for attempting to include so many best practices in the field into the Explore program, and they also carefully align the program's outcomes and materials with the CB21 outcome rubrics for a course at this level. The lab's challenges with context, agency, and metacognition and scaffolding are tied to its theoretical approach of behaviorism, which fosters such a decontextualized environment. I recommend that the lab changes its practices to reflect more constructivist and social cognitive theoretical approaches, in which students have more control over their learning while reading meaningful text in a social context, in which teachers model reading strategies and students practice them in a variety of settings.